I was not around for the inception of Seeds Community Center, but my understanding is it was the idea of growing a nonprofit born out of a passion of the people within Second Mile as a way to practically serve the needs of people of Tucson. So we really wanted to find a gap in services. And in doing so, and again, combining my own passions, my own experience in the foster care world, I saw that there was a gap to serve kinship families in particular. And these are known relatives of a child who steps in and provides a safe place for them to be. So this could be a grandmother, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, or even like a teacher who knows this kid who has been removed through no fault of their own, removed from their home and needs a safe place to stay. And I found that kinship families in particular were being underserved. And so we were able to step in and build some programming around to come alongside them on their journey. So since I stepped into this role in 2018, we have been hosting monthly support groups for kinship families within Tucson. And in that time, we've had some families who have been a part of it the entire time, and others who have moved on, either kids went back home or services were disrupted. So we've seen a wave of families come in and out, and we've also had some, families who have been there the entire time who are now adoptive families. And so providing those day-to-day services, month-to-month touch points as we're meeting with families, we've been able to expand. We're providing childcare scholarships when students are outside of school. We are also providing scholarships to allow kinship kids to get involved in extracurricular activities or the arts, really focusing on giving them the tools that they need to flourish and letting them focus in on the things that God has given them and the passions they have and the unique skills that they have to go and do gymnastics or baseball or creative writing, whatever the case may be, focusing in on that. In terms of what the future may look like, we want to do more robust services for kinship families in particular. I'd love to have a mentorship program for these kids. I'd love to provide additional services like continual respite care that kinship caregivers need. Many kinship caregivers are single heads of households, so it's a single parent offering care. So providing additional support for them. We're a safe place for their kid to come and be loved on and be cared for while they have some time alone. All of these kinds of wraparound services is what we want to continue to provide.
Hi, my name is Sarah Cameron, and my husband Alec and I have been at Second Mile for 12 years. We are currently adoptive parents of our beautiful 4 kiddos that we adopted 5 years ago. And prior to them, we had done foster care for 5 years. We had 7 kiddos come in and out of our home prior to our Forever 4 coming. We had no idea a year and a half into marriage that God was going to ask us to have we call it our 9-hour gestation period, where we got the call for our first foster daughter, and she came home 9 hours later. We didn't have any idea what he was going to do or how many kiddos we were going to have, but very quickly realized that it was the very deepest passion that he had ever placed in my life and my heart. So when it came time to adopt our Forever 4 kiddos in 2018, we were so excited and very, very ready to close our license and close our home to taking more kiddos in. But I knew that I was not ready to close the foster care chapter of our life. It had become such a big part of who I was and what my day in and day out life looked like. And so the day we closed our license, I told my licensing worker, we're done. There's no more room in the inn. We are done taking kiddos in our home, but if there's ever any opportunities to train or stay engaged in what is happening in foster care in Tucson, please let me know. And a few hours later, she called me and said, you won't believe this. A job position just opened up. It's a contract job. It felt like just such a clear picture of God saying, I see you. And as I was kind of grieving this chapter of our life being closed, him allowing me to very easily step right in. So for the last 5 years, I've gotten to train a bunch of different families. I've gotten to walk through getting to know people, speaking from our experience, and getting to realize that we didn't have to live out mission in the same way that we had been, which was inviting kiddos into our home, but I got to help equip the next generation of foster parents who was coming in. And it has really radically been such a life-giving thing for me.
Mission these days looks like peering up from a steaming bowl of borscht and perhe, sitting around a table with friends, wondering how the sweet Lord took you to where you are. To begin with the story, I'll start with one time I started volunteering with Tucson Refugee Ministry. And with this ministry, I was helping specifically with planning baby showers. We worked with an incredible group of women, and we would tenderly walk these refugee women through the process and the big transition of their life with planning a baby shower. We would engage with different worldviews and faiths and cultures and languages, and we would show up to their homes as perfect strangers, sit down on the floor and eat snack rules and tea and share new beautiful memories with these women. And then we would host a baby shower for them and bring them gifts. And ultimately the purpose was to make them a bit curious and puzzled and wonder, why are these women entering into my life to lavish me in love? And it would point them to something greater. It would point them to wonder what it looks like to intentionally love your neighbor. And it would point them to God, who is the author and perfecter of every good and beautiful gift. And this was a beautiful season of life where I got to meet so many beautiful moms and work side by side with incredible women to shower these moms with love. But ultimately my capacity changed, and I started a new job and I got new commitments, and I no longer could intentionally meet these women where I was at, and it felt like I lacked depth in the relationships because there was just too much on my plate. I couldn't intentionally and purposely love them the way that I wanted to because there was simply too much. And so my commitment changed, and I ended up pulling back and going back to the first mom, and her name was Alla. And Alla and I had a beautiful connection because she was Ukrainian. She had just come here with her 2 sweet babies and her brother-in-law from Ukraine to flee the war. And I met her the first time in her home, and she had this beautiful Ukrainian spread that reminded me of my grandma and her beautiful cooking. And it was a moment where I thought I didn't want to share that I spoke any Ukrainian because I thought it was too rudimentary, and it's only table Ukrainian, and I don't want to sound like a fool or too immature in my language skills. And so I just held in the Ukrainian that I knew, and I wasn't going to speak anything, and I was just going to love her kind of from afar. But she asked her brother-in-law for some juice, and she asked it in Ukrainian. She said, "Будь ласка, давай мені сік." And he didn't hear her, and instinctually I just handed her the juice. And the look on her face and the look on his face, where a perfect stranger was brought into their home from the Lord to meet them in this moment, to understand their heart language and to be able to speak to them, even if it was rudimentary Ukrainian, just made them like a soft pool of their heart. And it was so stunning and it was so beautiful, and it's nothing that I could have possibly planned. It was clearly the Lord moving me into their lives, into their table, to meet them in this space. And in that moment, I realized that it's really not about me. And it's not about my perfect language skills. It is about making sure that they were seen in their devastation and in the brokenness and the pain and the death and the war, that they were loved. And that's when my relationship with them took off. And it was less about performing and being able to complete every baby shower and connect with every mom. And it was more like an intentional meeting with this one family because that's what I could do. And it was beautiful.